joining me with the Betting on Me podcast. Today, we're joined by Evalye. Thank you so much for joining me today. I don't even know where to start, but I know it was serendipitous for us to have met. For a little backstory, you and I were joined at the gym randomly with Jason at the Loft Athletic Club. And he was talking to you about doing a give back for people without, right?
Yes.
And he brought me over because that's something I'm really passionate about. Mm-hmm. And conversation just started happening, and we were able to be very vulnerable with each other and open up and get to the nitty gritty of it all. I found you so inspiring and so interesting. I had to ask you to be on this podcast.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having me, Cree. And this is just such a beautiful moment to be a part of. You know, like I told you at the gym, I'm so excited for you. You know, even though we just met, I just know how God works, and I know when his hand is in it. And so I definitely see that in you.
Yeah, I agree because who would have thought that like Jason would bring us together on the most random tip?
So random.
It's God, baby. It's God, baby. He did his thing when he like put us together in the same room.
That's exactly right.
But then we talked about so many things that day. We started off talking about giving back and acts of service. We moved into being two women with depression. We moved into having suicidal thoughts and even acting on suicide. Then we moved into being medicated. Like, we covered everything in like 30 minutes.
Exactly.
And I was so grateful to just have somebody to look at who looks like me, and I saw myself in you. It was really dope.
Yeah, no, it was really good. Like I think in one of your text messages, you said it was serendipitous. I was like, that's the perfect word for our meeting, because I wasn't coming to talk about that. It was just me and Jason. We were going to chop it up about the give back. And then when we met, I was like, oh, wow. You know, and so I don't tell a lot of people this, but when I went home, I told my husband, and I was telling one of my friends, I was like, the whole time that everybody was talking in that 30 minutes that we had a conversation, I said, I could just see God like the whole time. And I was having a full 180, 360 in my head, right? I really was. Like I felt like I spiritually stepped out my body and was like, look at this conversation. Look at the people being in places to help others heal, to help them get to the next level, to help them get to the other side. And for me to be a part of that, because that was something that I'd already prayed about just in my life on my spiritual journey, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a little, but it's just seeing those pieces come together. And sometimes we get so busy with life and we forget to stop and smell the roses or to see the bigger picture. And that was, for me, I'm at a space in my life where I'm always stopping to say, wow, I see you, God. I see you when, you know, I probably couldn't have seen you earlier in my life. Like, I see you now. You know, so I look at even the smallest details to help me, you know, just stay connected spiritually and just continue to recognize the blessings that he has on everybody. And, you know, and especially in my life, I always try to kind of pinpoint that for myself.
What I will say is I did feel God too.
Yeah.
So I get a little emotional thinking about we were in the same place.
We were.
Yeah.
At the same time.
So.
On a random Tuesday?
Right? Yes.
like
at 2 o'clock. So what do you do?
So I am the CEO of Community Outreach and Advocacy Corporation. It's a nonprofit that I started in 2019. And we serve the underserved communities. And so underserved looks like people who are challenged with homelessness, domestic violence. They are children who are with parents who are transient and they're hopping from hotel to hotel to couch. They don't have consistent sources of food, you know, consistent sources of basic needs. Some people are transitioning out of the domestic violence shelter and trying to transition into a world and a safe space for themselves. And so we help them with a lot of different aspects as far as getting them to a place of feeling career ready. You know, we help them with their resumes, their LinkedIn's, their, you know, interviewing, whichever that looks like. We help them secure housing assistance. We help them with clothes. We help them with hygiene. We help them with whatever is necessary to make them feel seen, feel heard, feel valued.
Yeah.
And
humans,
sometimes
'cause
humans.
they matter.
That's it. I just want you to feel like you are cared for in this moment. And I want to meet you where you are and help you get to the next level of where you feel like you're supposed to be.
Yeah. What I will say about that is it's so important to see people because growing up, I was seen when God, like, how do I put this? So many things happened in my life growing up that the few people who did see me changed my life.
Oh, wow.
Like, my earliest memory is being on the side of the road with my mom and my sister because we were homeless. I was 3 years old and I remember it like it was yesterday.
Wow.
And I remember we walked to a store and there was 2 bags of popcorn. It was at night, 2 bags of popcorn. One was opened and filled with ants and one wasn't. And I just remember hearing my mom say, "Thank you, God." And we sat on the floor in front of that store and we ate that bag of popcorn.
Wow.
Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so for people to wake up in the morning and make their lives about people who need people, I'm so grateful.
Yeah.
Because you're saving people's lives just like that popcorn did
Yeah.
mine. You know what I mean? I was in
Yeah.
foster care. My grandmother took care of me. I got lucky to go to a foster home with a grandmother who saw me and took care of me because some people get the shittiest situations out of going into a foster home. So, like, you wake up every day and you choose to make your life about others.
I do.
And you're saving people's lives. But how did you get there? Like, where did that come from?
Well, growing up, my mother and my father always preached the gift of giving back. I watched my mom be a part of organizations, and we would give back to the children at Hugh Spalding's, the ones that were having, issues, healthcare issues. On the holidays, I would go to Hosea Feed the Hungry, and I would service my time in the jails, and I would service my time out in their community because, back in the early 90s, early 2000s, Hosea Feed the Hungry was a really big staple in Atlanta. And I wanted to be a part of it. I was the little girl that was 6 and 7 years old asking my mom, "Can we adopt one of the kids?" You know how you see the commercials, "Can we adopt them?" And I would print the flyers out. I would print the flyers out and put them on the refrigerator, and my mom, she would promise that we would adopt someone. We never adopted. Yeah, we never adopted anybody, but I just instinctively had it. But that was because I always felt like an underdog, right?
Okay.
And so when I would see the underdog, so to speak, right? So the underdog, what that looked like as a kid growing up, I was quiet, very, very quiet.
I remember Jason saying he felt like he had to protect y'all because you were so quiet at school.
And so a lot of people probably would have either overlooked us or undermined us, me and my sister. And we weren't shy. We were just quiet. And the reason that I was quiet is because I thought I could get better grades. That was it. And then it turned into a habit.
Okay.
And then, but in being the underdog, I would see other underdogs around me. And these underdogs would be the people that would get bullied at school. Yes. Or the kid that nobody wanted to sit next to because maybe they smelled funny or whatever. I wasn't that kid. I would always gravitate towards those people. And so what that taught me in life was you never know who's around you, right? You never know. It doesn't matter what they look like, where they come from. Be the person that's going to at least help in some kind of way. If that's a caring word, if that's hey, you want to come sit with me at the table, or let me invite you to my birthday party. You know what I mean?
Example of being a good person.
That's it.
And hope that it rubs on somebody else, but you don't know who you're changing.
You never know.
Stay with that action.
Exactly.
We really are similar, and I think that's really dope.
Yeah, so that's where that comes from me.
So it's in you, not on you. Love that. But with all that being said, because active service and giving back and being a really good person, I feel like that innately makes you feel good. You know what I mean?
It's fulfilling.
So, like, how do we get to a point where you're dealing with depression?
Yeah.
Like, how do we get there?
Well, it's a long story, but I will say that I've learned that it is probably more genetically hereditarily inclined. I grew up adopted, my sister and I.
Okay.
And so we didn't know our biological family. And I actually first felt a tinge or a hint of this sadness around 15. I was about 15 years old, but I really didn't even know what it was. I was just like,
Something's there though.
I'm sad, but I don't,
sad.
you know, I'm here. You know, we're working it out.
And you know, like, I feel
Yeah.
like when you're growing up,
Yeah.
do people believe that we're sad?
No.
You know what I mean? Like, you can't
Yeah.
really say out loud, hey, I don't feel good today, I'm sad. It's like, girl,
Yeah.
shut up.
Go
I put
pull
a
it
roof
out.
over your head.
Yeah.
You got a TV in the bed. And it's like, sometimes it just
Yeah.
feels like we're not heard, but like, yeah.
Yeah, well, we grew up, and you know, and my story is different than a person who maybe had a hard life. We grew up very privileged.
Okay.
And so in the African American community, sometimes that those words are hard to say, or it doesn't always come out of someone who looks like me. But we were very privileged. We grew up in a great neighborhood. I was a world traveler by the age of 13. But there was this thing at 15. I remember staying home because I wasn't feeling good. I didn't know how to express that I wasn't feeling good, like to your point. And I just knew, you know, I was like, something's off. But I just kept it moving. In my 20s, I did have a chance to meet my biological parents, my biological mom, and I realized that a lot of some of the things that I was feeling was some of the things that she was demonstrating.
Okay.
And we are at this point worlds apart, right? Because I don't know her, she doesn't know me. She had me and my sister, but I don't know her.
Yeah.
So I say that to say that some of it I think is more hereditary. And so going through that, trying to identify, like, what is it that makes me feel this way? Why can't I really shake some of this sadness? Like, I'm a happy girl. We're very active. We're traveling. My parents gave us literally everything. There was never a true no out of their mouths. And that's, for a lot of people, they can't say those types of things,
Yeah.
right? So I recognize that we were blessed in that way, and I definitely don't take it for granted. So there was nothing that triggered it.
Heard. Okay.
There was nothing that particularly triggered it. It was just what I internalized afterwards,
Okay.
right? And so what you internalize is growing up and you're in your 20s and, you know, you're trying to live life, but you're hearing, you can't do that. You know, if there's an idea that you may have had, you can't do that, or why do you act like that? Why do you move this way? Why do you walk that way? Why do you talk this way? And it was just, the world will pull away pieces of you, and I started to believe a lot of that. I feel like at some point I felt confident, and then all of a sudden I remember my confidence dwindling.
Okay.
Because I started to believe things in the world. Girl, you're not that cute. Oh, you stuck up, or oh, you got this. And for some people, this is just regular conversation,
Yeah.
right? But for me, those were small pieces that led to a much, much bigger piece, because those were external voices. But once I began to internalize these
Yeah.
voices, then those voices became much bigger. Then it was me talking to myself about what I couldn't do, who I wasn't. You're not a good mom. You're not a good wife. You should kill yourself. You're a horrible individual. You're disgusting. You're fat. Look at you. You gained all this weight. You know, nobody's going to want you. Your husband's not going to want you. Your kids not going to have a connection with you. It was just these words that had come into my hemisphere. And I started to believe these words. And what that does to a psyche, or my psyche, is that it diminished me even more. So
Yeah.
then I started to live in a place of not showcasing my light,
Yeah.
not living my light, not operating in my own way, you know? And so that, just internalizing it in that way, I would then give people the power to speak how they wanted to speak to me, act how they wanted to act with me, tell me what to do, and I would follow, you know, to the point where I lost myself.
Yeah, I was gonna say, how did that show up in your everyday life?
Yeah.
Like with your kids and your husband and.
I lost myself. When I first had my daughter, I tell my husband this, I really struggled with connection. because now I know that the reason I struggled with connection to having a daughter, somebody that I wanted, I wasn't connected to me.
I was gonna say that because
Yeah.
I used to pray about seeing myself.
Yeah.
Like I would pray to see myself. Like people in the world tell me I'm great and they're nice to me and all these things, but in my head I'm like, girl, fuck you. You're bad at everything. There's nothing you can do. And like I internalized it. And someone asked me recently, like, why do you try to convince the world that you ain't shit?
Yeah.
And it's like, you lose yourself in such a way when you tell yourself bad things about yourself to the point where you don't even realize that you don't say anything good about yourself.
No.
And so like, there was no connection to you. It was like two people in your body, right?
It was. Literally.
One voice that was loud as hell saying, girl, fuck you.
Yeah.
And then the person who's actually there living the life, but it feels like a zombie world, right?
It does. It felt like it's a darkness. It was a darkness for me for a very long time. It was like I was in my head and my room was dark, literally the colors of these walls. But it felt darker than this. And I'm sitting in just a chair, and the chair is just like a regular wooden chair. And I would just be sitting, waiting for somebody to come grab me, like pull me up out, you can't see me. And I would fall slowly and even more down into these pits that I'd created in my head.
You're spiraling.
I'm spiraling.
You're bad. There's nothing good about you.
There's nothing.
You're worthless.
And I'm covered in that. And no one can see me because outwardly I'm smiling. I got my life together.
Damn.
You know, my kids are good. I'm beast mom in this thing. You know, so I got these
Just
good babies.
acting.
Just acting. And I began to believe the act, right? And like I began to believe my smile. You know, I began to say, okay, well, you know what? Nobody's gonna know. I'm gonna cover this up. You know, I'm going to smile. I'm going to be the nicest. I'm going to be the most accommodating. I'm going to be the people pleaser, is what I think got me to that point, because I was so busy pleasing everyone else but me, my kids, my husband, my friends.
Did you tell your husband you were having these feelings?
I did. At some point, I did.
Okay. Did he believe you?
He did.
Okay.
Yeah, he did.
And what I mean like that, like, did he hear you? You know
He
what I
did.
mean? Okay.
He did. He heard me, and I was thankful for that, because it's not too often that I talk about it, or at that point I wasn't talking about it at all. So if I were to open my mouth, he probably at that point was probably like, what are you talking about? What do you mean? But okay, let's talk about it. And I remember and through my story, there's been 2 suicidal attempts, but after the first one, I didn't really go too much in detail with him. He'd been out, he was at the bar, and this was at a point in my life where I just was like, I don't have any friends, all these women are flaky, like, it's Atlanta, I want to be out in these streets too. You know, we didn't have any kids, but we were young, and I was alone.
How old were you when you tried to commit suicide the first time?
This was about 2009, so I had to be 27 maybe. I don't know how to do the math in my head. I'm 40 now, so what is that?
Math. Who cares about
math,
it?
Right.
Calculate.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. So
But the thing
in my
about it
20s,
is, it's like,
yeah.
I've been suicidal before.
Yeah.
I've never acted upon it.
Yeah.
So what?
Caused me to do it.
Yeah. Like, how did you say? You know what? I'm all in, baby. I'm ready to end it all.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck happened?
Yeah.
And you know what? There doesn't have to be something that happened, but like, what really like said to you, like, I could go.
The voices, that dual voice that you hear, that negative
shit is
voice
loud.
is loud, and you can't escape it. And that voice was so loud. It was loud both times, but that
got
first
chills.
time, it was just like, nah, you know, it was the negativity. It was, you don't deserve to be here. None of this that you're doing in life matters, period. So what do you have to live for, basically? Like, so if you were to wake up, what you gonna do different tomorrow? What's gonna be different? You still gonna be a lonely ass bitch. You still not gonna have nobody. You know what I'm saying? We were boyfriend and girlfriend at the time. Like, he's still gonna go out. You still aren't gonna have any friends. So what are you gonna do that's different? All you gonna do is just get up and go to work. And I was like, God, you're right. I really don't have anything else to live for. I don't really have anything anchoring me here. You know, at that point, I wasn't even considering God.
Yeah.
He wasn't in there.
Well, that voice is loud.
It's loud. It was
loud,
so loud.
and it's heavy.
It's heavy. And it drags you into a place of, well, if you wake up tomorrow, what else is there? You're going to be doing this over and over and over
It almost
again.
feels like a burden to be alive.
It does.
Like,
yeah.
you're doing more harm being here.
Then good.
Like, why do you have purpose? Like, there's no reason for me to be here. I wake up every day and I'm a piece of shit. I'm miserable. Like,
Yeah.
I'm out of here.
And then it's outside of that, it's the physicalness that people don't talk about, the physical heaviness that comes with depression that people don't talk about, because it's like, yes, it's a mental thing, but it's the physically having to get up, to walk, to brush your hair. My hair hurt, my teeth hurt, my body hurts.
Hard to be
hurts.
alive
It's
when you
hard.
feel like there's no point.
And so that's what got me there the first time. And so I just, I knew he was going out that night, and, I'd gotten into a spiral. I started drinking. I don't know, I think I was drinking some Seagrams or whatever, and I drank the whole bottle. That was the first time and the only time that I've ever done anything like that. And that was the moment.
Drink the whole bottle?
I drank a whole bottle.
How big was this bottle?
It was one of those tall Seagrams bottle, like, I can't even, it was a tall one, I remember. But I'm gonna tell you the blessing and the curse in that, okay? Yes, I was drinking, right? And I took the knife, and I started to dig into my arm, right? Pull it, digging down deep in my arm, and I could hear God in that moment. God screamed. This is one of the loudest voices I heard outside of the other voices. God said, stop. He's like, I'm going to get you out of this. He said it in the second suicide attempt, but this was the first one. He said, I'm going to get you out of this. And I just kept turning the knife. And then he just said to me, go to sleep. just flat out, go to sleep. And I passed out. That was the blessing of drinking the whole bottle, because I didn't have the wherewithal to do anything else. The moment of, I just passed out. I passed out, woke up. My husband saw the mark on my arm, and it's still there a little bit. He saw the mark on my arm, and he looked, and he knew. He said, we were brushing our teeth. He said to me, what did you do last night? I said nothing, because I'm still living the life like, I'm okay. What are you talking about? I said nothing. He said, I see your arm. He was like, he looked at me with tears in his eyes, and he said, God, if there is something anything that you need to talk about, I'm here. I am here. Please don't ever feel like you're alone. And so all I did was say, okay. And we got up and went on our way.
How did that make you feel in that moment, though?
I felt grateful for him, but I also felt numb, if I'm being very real. I was still in a space of not being able to see me and see blessings and see God in any of this, despite hearing the voice of God, despite anything. I just was so far removed from anything in life. I was numb for a very long time. And you don't realize how you're living life in this numb space until one day you wake up and you're like, well, dang, what happened?
What the fuck have I been?
Literally for me. And so I was numb. And so while he said it and I felt grateful, I did not take heed to that. If I was still feeling, like I was spiraling, I would never tell him. Let alone tell anybody else. This was my secret. This was something for me to keep to myself, because I know the stigmas that come with mental health. Yeah. Right? I know the stigmas of me even saying I heard voices. I know what comes with that. And I was very aware of protecting myself in that way, or keeping myself from it. Now I don't care, because it's like whatever. But
to save someone's life.
Yeah, exactly. But then I was just like, no, nobody's going to think of me as that. You're not going to think of me as, somebody that needs to go to a mental hospital. No,
Not me.
I don't live my life that way.
So
Yeah.
try once, you try it again,
I tried again.
and
The second time, this was 2018. This was 2018. And it was a September. But months before that, I'd felt myself spiraling. I was in my 30s, and I had 2 kids. My baby boy, he's 6 now, but at the time he might have been 1. So about whatever the math is, he was 1 because he was born in 2017. So at that time I was a mom, full-time mom. I mean, and now the stresses of just every day of being a mom and a wife and trying to make sure that everybody around me was good, and still trying to hold on to some kind of life, if there was any kind of life for me at that time. But the voices, because I never addressed them the first time, because I swept the first attempt under the rug, and because I just kept moving my life, that grew. That grew. And my biggest point, and when we'll get to it, is you have to address certain things, no matter how hard it is, no matter how people see you, no matter what. For me, I had not addressed that. And so 2018, here comes the spiral again. It was a stronger spiral this time. I mean, it was an uncontrollable, I don't even, I can't stop myself type of thing. There was nothing in particular that triggered it. I think it was just everything in life. All the stresses, all the negative voices, they were eating me alive at that point. Eating me alive. And I knew that if the rest of my life was going to feel like this,
right,
that I can't do this. I can't do this life. I love my kids. I love my husband. I love, my family. But if it has to feel this heavy every day when I wake up, if it has to just this pull on you, just pulling you out of you, if that has to be me every day, I don't want this. This is hard on everything else. I've got everything else in life, but then I got to literally sit down with myself and feel this. Girl, I couldn't escape myself.
Yes.
I just can't. I couldn't.
Everything you have felt and described, I know exactly how it feels.
It's a hard feeling.
Like, sometimes I'm so anxious at night, I want to pull my fucking face off.
Yeah.
Like, I want to get out of my body.
Yep. And you can't.
You can't. You can't.
It's the worst feeling in the world.
It
is. If something was physically happening to you, or maybe you got beat up or something, you can leave that, right? I'm just, giving an example, or maybe there was a stress at work. You can leave work, and come home. You can't leave yourself.
You cannot leave yourself.
You can't.
You can't. And that voice is loud. That hate for yourself is loud. That weight is heavy. I always tell people, I understand when people kill themselves. I get it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's the thing to do, but that voice, that feeling it's unbearable.
Yeah.
And so I understand. And it breaks my heart that someone feels the need that that's the only way. But it breaks my heart because it's like, I know how you were feeling.
Yeah.
And so that feeling is like, I'm sorry you had to go through that.
Exactly. I'm sorry you had to go through that.
And you don't know what you don't know. So people who have these feelings and they have the weight of the world, if you don't know what we are talking about, understand that it's not easy. So don't think we're weak.
No, and
we're strong for going through it. But sometimes
Exactly.
that feeling ain't worth it.
The whole in our community, shake it off. You're gonna be okay. Shake it off. Go do something. Figure that out. You got this. Yeah, but you can't shake this off. It's a hard thing to shake off. You don't get up, shake yourself, and keep moving. It's hard to do that from a mental standpoint. And I was at a point where the spiral had taken me deeper. I think we touched a little bit on it when we were having a conversation, more into the paranoia realm, and I was paranoid. I remember specifically one night, it was 12 o'clock, and in my house, we I don't know if I could say this, but we do keep guns for protection. But my husband does. And so one night, for whatever reason, I was in my thoughts, and I said, I was laying on the bed, but let me turn towards the door, because our bathroom is like above my head, or right or near my head to the left. And he was going in there. I was like, he's going to get a gun. He's going to shoot me.
Really?
Some random. And I just remember being so scared. I was like, he's getting ready to go get his gun and kill me and these kids for no reason. There was nothing that prompted it.
Yeah.
We were watching a movie. I think he was over there eating popcorn somewhere. You know what I mean? But
I get it.
But you know what I mean? Like, when you're so deep into it, and people don't really understand the levels of depression, that there are levels to it. It's not just a sad moment.
I'm sad.
Yeah, it's not that. You know, it's deeper.
It's
deeper. And so I didn't realize that was a part of my depression until I went to therapy. I didn't realize that was a part of it. I didn't know paranoia existed in that way. I knew that there are people who suffer from paranoia and have paranoid moments, but that was my very first time being paranoid. And it was so to the left. It was such a out of left field.
That is wild, because like,
it was
my paranoia shows up in anxiety, right? And so mine is overthinking. My paranoia shows up in everybody hates me.
Yeah.
Like, if someone doesn't text me back, it's because I did something wrong and they hate me, and I will take that spiral and
spiral it.
By the end of my spiral of everybody hates me, I done deactivated my Instagram. I done unfollowed everybody.
Yes.
I blocked that motherfucker because I'm taking back my control. They're not gonna hate me more than I hate them. No, girl, shut up.
Yep.
That's how my paranoia shows up. So yours was like,
it was bad.
Yeah.
It was I didn't realize it gotten to that point. But that was a part of the spiral that I was in. And so with that came the second suicide attempt. It was a September. I had been feeling this way for so long, and I was like, here we go again. I can't, I've got these kids, and of course somebody is going to be way better at taking care of these kids than me. They don't deserve this. My husband doesn't deserve this.
Yeah, I felt like a burden.
He didn't even sign up for this. Did he sign up for that? Like, do you know what you signed up for? Like, this is not what our vows meant. Maybe in my head, I mean, I'd made myself believe that he wasn't along for the ride, that my kids weren't, that I wasn't capable of loving my kids and being the best mom for them. But I was, I'd believed these lies. I'd made up these thoughts. I'd created this anxious world, this paranoid debacle in my head. And I believed it. And I was sticking to it. I was like, nobody needs to know, and so I did tell him though. I told him, and it was March of 2018 when I told my husband that I'm spiraling. And he asked me, he said, well, do you think you need help? No, he said, what does that mean for you? And I told him what I felt. I told him the thoughts. I told him everything. He said, okay, do you think you need help? And I said, no. Girl. I said no because I still was holding on to the, what others think. What somebody think of me. I didn't build my life for people to look at me differently. Like, it was just this whole ego trip thing here. And he said, are you sure? And I said, yes. He said, well, if you ever need me, he went back to if you ever need me, I'm here. I said, absolutely. And I didn't take heed to it. I didn't take heed. So when September came, it was after my daughter's birthday. I knew that I was going to do it after her birthday. I at least wanted to be here for her birthday. My kids had their birthdays that year. I wanted to make sure that mommy was there for whatever. This was the last one. So that Monday came, because her birthday's on the 6th, and it was around Labor Day weekend. And it came, and I dropped the kids off at school. And I knew, because it was hard. It was hard that day. It was hard for me to get up. It was hard for me to get up. And I hugged them. I kissed them. I gave my husband a hug and a kiss. Everybody was gone. I knew the house would be empty. So I drove home and I pulled into the driveway. And it was not even the voices. The voices were loud, but it was the pull.
Yeah.
You know, it felt as if something else was pulling me into this zone of saying, kill yourself, right? And so I texted my husband, I love you. The kids will be better off with you. And he texted me back, do you feel like you're going to hurt yourself? I just left it, I didn't say anything. He called. I didn't respond. I walked into my house as he was calling. I looked at my kitchen, and let me just be clear, and this is not to be, I don't want to be braggadocious or anything of that nature. We'd gotten to a point where we live in this beautiful home. It's over 5,500 square feet. And we live this life where people would think, what do you have to be sad about? This is everything and then some that you would want. I looked at my kitchen the last time and I said, I don't care. I don't, this is not coming with me, period. If I die or what, doesn't come with me. Nothing comes with me. Nothing comes with me. And the voices were just, do it. You want to do it. That's what they were saying. You want to do it. And so I walked upstairs. And my husband's calling. He's calling. And I finally answered. He was like, are you getting ready to harm yourself? That's what he said on the other line. And I just said, nope. And I hung up. I grabbed all the pills that I could think to grab, whatever was around, and I put them by the side of my bed. I got this big, tall glass of water, and I sat there, and I cried. I cried because I couldn't stop myself. And I kept hearing the voices say, take one, just one. You want to take it. And I forced myself to take one. I took one because it was, and I say forced because the me that wanted to live was fighting with the me that didn't want to live.
It's two people.
And the me that didn't want to live had such a strong hold on me. And it allowed me to take one. So it made me feel like I was forcing myself because the girl that was in the chair in the dark space was screaming,
don't do it.
She was screaming, don't do it. And I'm like, nope. I took one, right? And then my sister called. She's like, are you okay? I said, no. And I screamed out, please help me. That was the girl that wanted to live. Please help me. And I hung up the phone. At that time, she only lived 5 minutes away from me. She rushed to the house. I took another one. And I laid down. And then I took another one. But I kept hearing the voices. They were strong. Then all of a sudden, I heard God's voice yell at me. And I know we have mics. But he was like, stop. Stop. I have so much more for you. I have so much more for you on the other side if you just stop. And it was so loud, it rattled me. It rattled me to a point where I kind of was like, who said that? You know what I mean? Like one of those types of things. Like, where did that come from? And so I took another one. My sister, she flew into the house, and I remember her just throwing the pills, and she looked at me and she was just like, it's okay. I'm here for you. And she said, she held me and she rocked me. And I just cried and cried and cried. And she said, she's like, I know, she's a therapist, she's a psychotherapist. So, and she held and she rocked me. And she said, it's hard. She's like, you've been living. She just had these words were words that made me feel comforted. She was saying things like, you've had a hard journey. It's okay. She's like, we're going to make it through. Like, she was giving me such hope that I needed in that moment. And she rocked me and she rocked me. And she listened to me, and I didn't say anything. I just cried. She was just like, let it out. Just let it out. And then she asked me at the end of that, she was like, what do you want to do right now? You know, and I was like, I want to take a shower. I don't know why I want to take a shower. I want to take a shower. I walked into the bathroom with all my clothes on and just sat in the shower. By that time, my husband came home. Mm-hmm. And I just remember this look on his face. It was a look of, he was scared. He was shocked. He was sad. He was, you could just tell there was a swirl of emotions. But none of those emotions said, I'm going to leave you. You know, none of them said, I'm not going to be here for you. None of them said that. It was just like, okay, I got you. He came in, he turned the shower off, and he pulled me up. And he gave me like this big hug. He wrapped the towel around me, and he picked me. He literally picked me up and put me on the bed, and he said, do you think you need to go to the hospital? See, and this question comes up, right? Because in our lives, especially in the Black community, you know, it was like, it's a mental thing. It's not a physical thing. So the question of, do you need to go to the hospital is valid. Somebody might have said, well, you see what she's been doing. Of course she needs to go to the hospital. And I said no. Mm-hmm. I said, no, not right now. I just want to lay here. Because I started to get tired.
Yeah.
I started to get tired. And he and my sister saw that I started to get tired. My sister said, we're going to take you out. We're going to take you out and we're going to ride you around. I want to show you some places and things that help me when I'm in her own mental zone or whatever the case is. And so they took me and they rolled me around. We went to the most randomest places. So this is what I'm going to tell you, some of the randomest places we went to. We went to the Buddhist camp, I think is somewhere down the street from us. We went there. We went to an animal shelter. We went some random places. We went to a monk. I can't even say it.
Just throwing places out there.
Yes, we went there. The reason being is because she lives her life in a different way. She lives it in a spiritual way, and so she thought some of those would help me. But then I really like animals too, and so maybe she just was like, well, let's go to the animal shelter, and you know, this will help pick you up. But really, all it was doing for me is just taking me away from the moment.
Yeah,
that's it. You know, because it was a day. I still had to get kids. I still had to live life. It was a Monday. I still had to go to work. I still had to live my life. And so I remember just feeling like thankful that they took me away, and also just still numb. So it was more of just being numb. And then I knew in that moment that this was much deeper, and that I really, really, really need help at this moment. And so I spent no time getting on the phone with my doctors.
Oh, cool.
I spent no time getting on the phone with them because I knew if I didn't do anything, that this would come around again, as it has the second time. I called my primary care. I called around. Surprisingly, you cannot get an appointment to a psychiatrist or a therapist, and I didn't know who to go to. And you would think, oh, well, your sister's one. She couldn't help me like that in that moment.
So you went to
my primary care
psychiatrist.
My primary care led me to her friends, her circle of friends who was a psychiatrist and a therapist.
Okay.
And I was with them for about 18 months. And the psychiatrist is what diagnosed me with the major depression, anxiety. And she started the round of medication.
How did medication help you?
Yeah, medication was a blessing. It was a blessing.
When I became medicated, it felt like I didn't know that I never felt normal.
Yep.
And so then I got medicated.
Yep.
And now I encourage people, like, I don't want to throw people into the depths of medication.
No.
But if you need it, try it out.
Try it out.
It might save your life, because it definitely saved mine.
It saved my life. It was one of those things where, like you said, you don't know that your brain is really technically on fire.
Yeah.
You know, until the pills come and they put the fire out. And that's the easiest way for me to explain it, because I could think clear.
Yeah.
I could see myself from a bird's eye view. Like, I would have moments where it was like, oh, that's how I'm supposed to do this?
Exactly.
Yeah, like, whoa.
Yes,
like,
yes. I had to mourn a lot of my old self. Because I was like, oh, I was really tripping.
You're straight
I was tripping. I literally would spiral. Anytime something bad happened to me, I was like, all right, bet, like, time to spiral.
Yeah.
Like, my mentor, she described me as a cat who, like, gets stuck on the ceiling. The moment, like, something happens, I just, like, jump on the ceiling. I'm like, everything's wrong. Like, and I just go for it.
You go for it.
Medication really helped me, like, be able to, like, sit back and go, you know, maybe I could just, like, figure it out.
That's right. Medication helps you think.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, that's how my psychiatrist expressed it would be, because I didn't know.
Yeah.
You know, and she expressed it. She said, it's just going to give your brain a rest.
Yeah. Yeah.
She said it's been working out
we were
for years.
using it. Having two people in your head.
Yes.
It's a lot of fucking work.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
my thought process in asking you to be here was because you're a beautiful woman.
Thank you.
You're dope, right? You do a lot for the community. You take care of others. You raise your family, and you're a wife. And at the end of the day, no one would ever suspect that you had two people in your head, and the loudest one was saying, "Kill yourself.
That's right.
You're not worthy."
Yeah.
And I hope that we can inspire people to talk about this shit.
Yeah.
So that there isn't a stigma on who can be depressed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, let's put more faces on it. This beautiful lady can be depressed and wanted to kill herself.
Yeah.
And so I'm really thankful that you're here to put a different face on it, and not just, hey, like, we can be depressed, but like, we can also get help.
Yeah.
We can get help. We can become medicated if we need to be. We can go and use active service as another form of therapy.
Yes.
We can go to therapy, and we can just keep fighting and figure it out. And so that loud voice becomes a voice of, like, I love myself.
I do.
And I look in the mirror and I see a light. And the light that people were saying that you had, now you can believe them and see it in yourself.
Yeah.
And so I'm really thankful that you can inspire others to, one, talk about it, and two, get help.
Thank you. Yes. No, I'm excited that this was even a platform for me to do that, because it's so important for me. Like, even when you said what other people see it now I'm at the point where I see me.
Period.
Yeah. I don't need anybody else's validation of me. And that's a good feeling.
Yeah.
You
It's
know,
like you're betting on yourself. I don't know. Just a thought.
I mean, you know, I'm just saying, you know, I'm betting on me. I'm betting on my thoughts. I'm betting on my wants, my actions, just who I am and what that looks like for me. I'm no longer the passenger in my own car. I'm the driver, and I have the power to change whatever in my life, whatever that looks like. And so, this is a step in me, a step of me doing that. You know, this is a step of me doing that.
So before we close out, I do want to ask you to share those fundamental things. In no order, but what really helped you come out of that dark space and come into a new light of betting on yourself? Was it therapy, with medicine, your husband? Like, give me like that list so that maybe someone can be inspired to work on their own list.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a list for sure. But I will say it was my husband, because with his encouragement throughout, even when I would have the meltdowns and when you're still healing, sometimes it doesn't look like you think. Some people think, oh, I'm going to take pills and I'm going to be fine tomorrow. It took years, you know, for me to get to a point of like, I can breathe, right? So for him to always be just like, I'm here, I got you, I'm here for you, let's talk. And even in the moments that I couldn't talk, he could see me and he could say, okay, come on, let's get outside. Let's put your feet on the ground. Let's walk. Let's get some sun, you know. And my kids, you know, them every day, just seeing them in their unique glory of what kids do.
Yeah.
My sister, who
So
just,
your family
my
was
family
a
was
very strong
they were
fundamental piece.
they were big. And then of course, which is not, like you said, is not in any particular order, God.
Yeah.
That is what keeps me.
Correct.
Still to
Okay.
this day.
So your faith.
My faith is
So we're gonna
big.
go family, faith,
We're gonna go faith, family.
hurt, faith, family,
Faith-
in no particular order.
Yeah, no particular
so faith,
order.
family,
Faith, family, and then making sure that I had the proper medical team.
medical team.
Gotta have
Let's
your
throw them
medical
in there
team.
for sure.
Gotta do it. And you know what? Learning to use your voice.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. That's a big piece for me.
2 minutes.
2 minutes.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. You don't have to speak it to the world. It may just be a moment of where if you see somebody in your circle going through it or whatever the case is, maybe you sharing bits and pieces of your story to help move that energy out of you.
Heard.
That was big for me.
Okay.
My voice. Yeah.
And would you say acts of service?
Exactly. Acts of service. That's what I do.
That's your root. That's
my
fundamental
root.
for you.
That is my root, and that is what helped me birth this person that you see now.
Yeah.
Yeah. You
Well,
know,
she's beautiful.
Thank
And
you.
inspiring.
Thank
and a
you.
lovely person. And I'm so grateful to have met you and to be someone to give someone a platform like yourself to inspire others to talk about it and be about it on some let's get to the root.
nitty gritty.
Let me help myself.
Yeah.
Let
absolutely.
me bet on myself.
I like that.
So I hope that your story can inspire other women who go through it to keep going
Thank you.
and to live. So
Yeah.
thank you so much.
No, thank you.
I'm gonna do the cheers.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
I'm grateful for you.
Yes, I'm grateful for you too. Thank you.